everyone, welcome back to the class once again. So today we are going to start the second chapter from history, and it is all about the Vedic period. So Vedic period is divided into two parts, early Vedic period and the later Vedic period. So let's start without wasting our time. So I've already made it ready over here. So Vedic period. So first of all we need to understand about the origin of the Aryans. The Aryans, where did they come from? Where did the Aryans come from? So there are two theories regarding the origin of the Aryans. The first theory was propounded by Lokmanya Tilak. You might have heard about Lokmanya Tilak, also known as Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Very much active during the national movement. He was from the extremist group and very active member of the national movement. So Lokmanya Tilak. So he had given the theory regarding the origin of the Aryans, from where did they come from. So he had given a view that these Aryans came from the polar region. The Aryans came from the polar region. But this theory had faced a lot of criticism, met with a lot of criticism. So this theory became a theory itself, and later on one more German ideologist, his name was Max Muller. He was from Germany. So German ideologist, he had put forward the theory that the Aryans had come from Caspian Sea region. The Caspian Sea region where the origin, from where they came, or they might have come from Central Asia. And this theory is widely accepted by most of the scholars of our country. So the theory regarding the origin, we normally understand that they came from Central Asia and spread to different parts of Europe and Asia. From there they spread to Europe as well as in Asia. So when they came to India, so before this we discussed about Harappan civilization. After the decline of Harappan civilization, the Vedic period starts. So from where did they come from? So these are the theories put forward by Lokmanya Tilak as well as Max Muller. So now let us talk about the origin of the word Aryans. The Aryans is the word derived from Sanskrit word Arya. Arya is the Sanskrit word derived from Sanskrit, and the meaning of Arya is civilized or noble. Civilized or noble. So this is the one, civilized or noble, the meaning of Arya. So on the basis of that, the whole thing became Aryans. Aryans, they came from Central Asia. So when they came to India, where did they settle first? So it has been mentioned, and this theory we widely accept it and read it in we read in our school life also, and the same thing we are teaching to the students also. So they settled in a Sapta Sindhu region. This is the region, Sapta Sindhu. They settled in a Sapta Sindhu. They settled in a Sapta Sindhu region. Sapta Sindhu region, the land of 7 rivers. They settled in a region known as Sapta Sindhu, river Indus, Sapta Sindhu region, which is a land of 7 rivers. So which are the rivers? River Sindhu. So number 1, river Sindhu. Number 2, river Chenab. Number 3, river Beas. Number 4, river Jhelum and river Ravi. And last two one is the Satluj and the Saraswati river. So I have written it over here, Saraswati river. So please kindly zoom it and make it more clear for my students. So Sapta Sindhu region, Sindhu river, Chenab, Beas, Jhelum, Ravi and Satluj. Satluj and Saraswati. So these were the rivers where these Aryans settled in the early phase of coming in country, and later on, when the population of the Aryans went on increasing, they spread to the interior part of India. So the early Vedic period, the entire story revolves around this region only. They settled in this region. So this region, when they settled it over here, and the life which started over there came to be known as early Vedic period. So the Aryans, when they came in an early phase of their migration, they settled in the Sapta Sindhu region, and that period is known as early Vedic period. And later on, with the growing population as well as with the discovery of iron and all, they migrated to or spread to different parts of our country. So that is included in the latter 3 Vedas, which we'll discuss. So now, in order to understand more clearly about the social life, political life, economic life, as well as the religious life, we need to understand from various sources. So in order to understand regarding the Aryans, we need to go through the literary sources, and this literary sources throws much light about the Aryans. So we'll discuss about it in detail. Let us discuss about the literary sources. Because without any sources we cannot reconstruct the history of the past. So the main thing we require to reconstruct the past is it all depends upon the sources which we have, and the sources which we are going to discuss over here is literary sources, written sources. The first one we have is Rig Veda. Altogether 4 Vedas are there. 4 Vedas are there. 4 Vedas are there. 4 Vedas are there. First one is Rig Veda. Second one is Sam Veda. Third one is Yajur Veda, and the fourth one is Atharva Veda. So Rig Veda, Sam Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. So apart from this Atharva Veda, simply flowing out of it is not so easy for us. We need to understand what all these 4 Vedas contains. Simply if I tell you there are 4 Vedas and just simply tell you the name of the 4 Vedas, that is not going to help you out. You need to understand about what does these 4 Vedas contain. So the 4 Vedas, first one is Rig Veda. So Rig Veda mainly contains various hymns, the songs sung in order to praise God. So hymns are sung in order to praise God. So mainly contains various hymns for prayer. So prayer to Vedic gods. So they were sung in order to please the Vedic gods, such as Agni god. Then Indra was there, God Indra was there, Mitra was there, Vayu was there, and Surya was there, sun god was there. So you need to understand once again. So hymns were sung in order to praise God. Okay, in order to praise God. So these were the gods of those times. So it throws light that the Aryans definitely believed in religion also. Religions were also a part of their life. So this Rig Veda throws complete light on the religion of the early Aryans. So they worshipped Agni, Indra, Mitra, Vayu, and Surya. So apart from Rig Veda, so this is the early Veda. So Rig Veda was written in the early Vedic period. And rest of the 3 Vedas were written in the later Vedic period. So the second one is Sam Veda. So what does Sam Veda contain? So it represents the force of spiritual knowledge. And power of devotion. How we can show or do our devotion. Devotion means bhakti. What are the ways through which we can give our life for praising God? So proper way of devotions are mentioned in the Sam Veda. Now the third one is Yajur Veda. What does Yajur Veda contain? So Yajur Veda contains 1975 verse mantras. Okay, it contains 1975 verse and mantras in 40 chapters. How many chapters are there? 40 chapters. Within these 40 chapters, what is mentioned? Verses and mantras are there. So it is included in Yajur Veda. Mantras are there. Okay. And the last one we have is last one among the 4 Vedas we have is Atharva Veda. So this is the one, Atharva Veda. Atharvaved. Atharva Veda. Okay. Atharva Veda. So it is a collection of Atharva Veda is a collection of 730. 730. So please clearly zoom this. 730 hymns, 600 mantras. Okay, 730 hymns, 600 mantras, which is divided into how many books? 20 books. So altogether 730 hymns are there, 600 mantras are there, and it is divided into 20 books. So this is all about the four Vedas which we have. So I think we need to understand and keep a knowledge about the Vedas, because these are the source of our knowledge. Today the whole world definitely understands the importance of Vedas, and many of the foreign universities Veds are taught. Rig Ved is definitely taught in their college and universities. So this Veds gives us more information. It throws light on the life of the early Aryans as well as the later Vedic period. Early Aryans, early Vedic period, and the later Vedic period. It throws light on the social life of the Aryans, social life, political life, economic life, and as well as the religious life of the people of the early Aryans. So apart from these four Vedas, we have many more to understand. Few more literary sources are there which we are going to discuss again. So after the four Vedas, we'll be we'll try to understand about Upanishad, Vedas, Smritis and the Purans. But before I come to this topic, I'd like to tell you once again that the four Vedas altogether were known as Samhita. The four Vedas altogether were known as Samhita. Okay? The four Vedas together were known as Samhita. Okay? Why it was called Samhita? Because it represented the oral tradition. It represented the oral tradition of that time. During this time, it was not written. When it was first sung in order to praise God, it was not written. It was not in the form of a written book. Later on, it was written. But initially, at first stage, it was not at all written. That is why it was known as Samhita. Okay? And that is why even it was not in the form of a written book. That is why it was also known as Shruti. Shruti. S-H-R-U-T-I. Shruti. Altogether, the four Vedas are known as Samhita, and it was in the form of oral. It was not in the form of a written book. It was not in the form of written form. That is why it was also known as Shruti. So, and this many of the scholars like I told you about German Max Muller, Indologist. He was also of the opinion that this Vedas or the early Vedic period represented the period between 1500 BC to 1000 BC. 1500 BC to 1000 BC. That was the time when these people came and settled down in the Sapta Sindhu region. Okay. So now let's discuss about Upanishad. What does Upanishad deal with? What does Upanishad contain? You might have heard about being living in a country like India. We belong to a Sindhu culture. That means our civilization is named after river Indus, Sindhu river. So Indus civilization, we belong to river Sindhu. So Upanishad, Vedas and all these literary sources plays a very, very important role in our life. So Upanishad, what does Upanishad contain? So it deals with philosophical questions. And it was compiled around 600 BC. This was compiled around 600 BC. Upanishad was compiled at around 600 BC, and it deals with philosophical questions. Apart from philosophy of the Aryans, it also deals with the social, religious, political and economic life of the Aryans. Let us say mostly social and religious life of the Aryans are dealt with within this Upanishad, which was written in 600 BC. Now Vedangas. So what does Vedangas contain? So what does Vedangas contains? So altogether there are 6 in number. Vedangas are 6 in number. How many? 6. Vedangas are 6 in number. Vedangas are 6 in number, and it deals mostly with the religious practices, pronunciations, grammar, science, like science of words and astronomy. So it deals with once again religious practices, pronunciations, grammar and science of words and astronomy. Okay, this deals with all these things. Now apart from Vedangas, we have Smritis. S-M-R-I-T-I-S, Smritis. So what does Smriti contain? So you know that this is, or that means this is the origin of the Hindu's law. Smriti is the origin of the Hindu law. Manusmriti. You might have heard about Manusmriti. Manusmriti. Mostly we Indians know about Manusmriti. Manusmriti is the earliest legal system. Manusmriti is the earliest legal system and deals with the codes of law. It deals with the codes of law, like a judicial process, judicial procedures, and rights and duties of the four castes. Four castes are there that we'll discuss about it later on, like Brahmanas were there, Kshatriyas were there, then again Vaishyas were there, and the lowest one were the Sudras were there. So the code of conduct, the rights and duties of the four castes are mentioned in the Manusmriti. I hope you all are understanding what I'm trying to teach you. Smriti contains mostly about the codes, legal codes of those time, and the rights and duties of the four castes are mentioned in the Smritis. Now the next one we have is Purans. The next one we have is Purans. So you all know about Purans. This is one of the old book of the Hindus. Purans is one of the old book of the Hindus. Okay, and as it is clear from the name, Purana. Okay, Purans. The book deals with the old. What does the Puran deals with? It deals with the old dynasties of the king. Old dynasties of the king, or Vansacharita. Old dynasty of the kings, Vansacharita. Which all Vans came. Okay, that is discussed. That is written in the Purans, and this is one of the most important purpose of history. So we need to know about the kings, dynasties of the king. Who were the kings who ruled, and what were the type of administration like during those period is mentioned in the Purans. So this is all about the 5 literary sources which throws light on the early Vedic, that means the Vedic age. Altogether, early Vedic age as well as the later Vedic age. It throws light on both the Vedic age. Now, apart from 5 Vedas, we have 2 more literary source which we'll discuss now. So apart from the 8 literary sources, we have 2 more that comes under epic. First one is Ramayana and second one is Mahabharata. As you all know that during this lockdown, you all are enjoying Ramayana and Mahabharata in our television. When I was a child, I used to watch Ramayana and Mahabharata, definitely. So even few episodes I watched recently. So you also please watch it. You'll have a lot of ideas about Ramayana and Mahabharata. So what is all about Ramayana? So Ramayana, who wrote Ramayana? And who wrote Mahabharata? So as you all know, if somebody asks you who wrote Ramayana, so definitely you will say Valmiki. Valmiki wrote Ramayana. Okay. And Mahabharata was written by Ved Vyas. Okay, it was written by Ved V-A-Y-S-A. Okay, Ved Vyas. So what is all about? What does Ramayana and Mahabharata contain? So definitely, Ramayana is a conflict between Ram, okay, and Raman. Okay. The central character, central figure of Ramayana is Ram, Lord Ram, and his wife Mata Sita, and Ravan, the king of Lanka. Okay, and the story revolves around the conflict between the Aryans and the non-Aryans. The conflict between the Aryans and the non-Aryans. So you might have heard about the story of Ramayana, where Ram is exiled for 14 years. And during the exile, that means Sita, the wife of Mata Sita, is was taken away, kidnapped. Let us say in a modern term, kidnapped by Ravan. Okay, Ravan comes disguised as a bhikshuk, and then he takes away Sita. So Ram and Lakshman later on takes the help of the monkey king and all, and with the help of Hanuman, they manage to reach Lanka, and fierce battle takes place between Ram's troops, Lord Ram troops along with the monkey kings and all, and on the other side the powerful ruler of Lanka, Ravan. There was fierce battle takes place, and finally they become victorious. Ram, Lakshman and all, they become victorious, and they manage to free Sita from the clutches of Ravan, and they return back. So when they return back, everywhere darkness was there. It was very dark. So that day people celebrate it as Deepavali, right? Before the Dasera we call it, no? So Dasera means the killing of Dasera, 10 heads. Ravan had 10 heads and all. This is all about mythology. I have heard and I have studied. Okay, so after Ravan is been killed, all these groups return back to Ayodhya, and everybody welcomes Ram, Sita, and Lakshman, lighting diyas in front of the houses and all. So that day we celebrate as Deepavali. Okay, so that we know it's a part of our Indian culture. So every Indian knows about Ramayana and all the festivals related with Ramayana and all. The another one we have is Mahabharata. So the little knowledge even I have about Mahabharata also. Okay, so Mahabharata is a conflict. It's a conflict between Pandavas and the Kauravas. They belong to the same family. But ego class results into a conflict between both the brothers' son. Okay, Pandu, the king Pandu had 5 sons, and one other brother, his name was Dhritarashtra. Okay, if I'm not wrong, yeah, he was Dhritarashtra. He had 100 sons, and among the 100 sons, one son was very, very strong, and he wanted to be the king after his father. His name was Duryodhana and all. So it is a family clash between both the brothers' family, Pandavas and the Kauravas. So finally, at the end, you know the story. At the end, what happened? The Kauravas completely gets destroyed, and Pandavas, they become successful after a series of war being fought for a long period. Okay, so here it is mentioned the number of Aryan rulers. So I'm not here telling about the story, but just to recollect about Ramayana and Mahabharata, I'm trying to share my story with you all, which you all are watching even today in your television. So Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Mahabharata is Mahabharata, a war. It's within this Mahabharata, Pandavas and Kauravas, when they were involved in the battle of Kurukshetra, the place where battle was fought, the name of that place was Kurukshetra. Okay, number of Aryan rulers, they got involved in this great war. Number of great kings of that time, Aryan rulers of that time, they were involved in the great war which was known as Mahabharata. Okay, so these two epics throws enough light on the political, social, cultural life of the period. What type of life that time people had, what type of social life, political life, and religious life. Okay, let us say political, social, as well as cultural life of the period of that time is thrown through both these books, Ramayana and Mahabharata. So these are two very important books. So mostly children will be asked, so who wrote Ramayana? So definitely you will write down Valmiki wrote Ramayana. Who wrote Mahabharata? Then Ved Vyas wrote Mahabharata. So you definitely need to know about Ramayana and Mahabharata. Being Indian, you please watch it. The opportunity is there for you all, so you people can watch it on DD National and all. I'm not promoting, but to make you aware, to bring you closer to your culture, I'm trying to request you all to watch Ramayana and Mahabharata. So let us keep up to this much only. So today we discuss only about the sources, and tomorrow we'll start again in the next class. We'll start again the life of the early Vedic period and the later Vedic period. We'll try to differentiate between the early Vedic period and the later Vedic period. So what type of society it had, what was the position of the women in the early Vedic period, and what was the position of women in the later Vedic period. So that all those we'll discuss in the next class. Okay, so till then, please go to this video, watch it properly. Okay, few questions, if possible, I'll mention it down in your description box. The link will be provided over there. Please go through it and try to write down in your copy. So this much for today. Thank you very much.